Welcome, welcome to the webinar.
The webinar. Thanks for everyone being here a bit early. We'll get started probably 1 minute after the hour, so just sit tight. We'll let other people come in, but we just wanted to make sure that you guys knew we were here. We're listening. Well, actually, we're not listening. We're maybe listening to each other, but we're available. So if you have questions, this is the first time we use this platform. I'm assuming on your panels you have somewhere to put in questions. If someone wants to do a test, that would be awesome. Otherwise, you could put stuff in the chat and we'll be kind of monitoring that throughout the presentation. But no tests
I
yet.
will be sharing my screen, so I think it's up to you to monitor the questions.
Yeah, for sure. I'll take care of all that. And then we'll do a Q&A at the end. But if someone does have the ability to throw in a question in the Q&A section or throw something in the chat, just so we can get that tested out, that would be awesome. I'm going to maybe type something in here.
I
Test.
see Dave Barker is here. Shout out to Dave Barker.
Oh, okay, cool.
Cool dude. Doug Parks. How's it going, Doug? Awesome guy. Dave Lane. Shout out to Dave Lane as well. Let's see. Jamie is there from Larimer. How's it going, Jamie? Lee Cormier, Mark Langley. Wow. Neil Per. How's it going, everyone? I'm just gonna start rattling names. At this point, you don't even know if I'm just making up names or anything. Let's see. Ryan Ryder. Going.
So we got 1 minute. Again, we'll get started in 1 minute just to let the stragglers get in. But thanks for everyone being a part of this. And Bobby, you want to start sharing your screen just so we can get that up?
Yeah, let's do that.
I'm maybe gonna turn off my camera to not be a distraction.
No, I can't see anything at this point. I just see my screen, so I'll be listening to your soothing voice during this webinar.
Yeah, I did a little test to see how many hours of phone calls I've taken since I joined Autel, and I did this on the 14th, and I had been on calls, scheduled calls, 178 hours in my first 6 weeks, which was an average of almost 6 hours a day. So what you're hearing is a soothing voice that is probably a result of talking so much that I know that I'm one vocal cord away from ripping the whole thing apart. So anyway, looks like we're at time. We'll get jumping into this thing so that we could provide you some insights on what you could do with public safety data captured by drone technology. So Bobby, if you want to go to the next slide. My name is Randall Warnas. I've been the CEO of Autel since June 1st of this year, but I've spent the last 7 years in the drone industry. Most of that time spent between DJI and FLIR, bringing drones really to the forefront of the industrial and civic space. I would say that of my achievements, really just pioneering where aerial thermal imaging has gone to this point has been kind of more of the crowning achievement for me. But being a part of the drone industry and being connected with the user base has been kind of my forte since I entered into it in 2014. So that's it on my end. Bobby, if you want to do a quick intro.
Yeah, I'm Bobby Ouyang, CEO of SkyeBrowse. Built this platform about 4.5 years ago in a frat house, and I was the only one there, so I became CEO, not by choice, just became CEO. And yeah, we're just really aiming to simplify emergency response, situational awareness before, during, and after the incidents. And we'll go more into it later on to just show the broader vision of both SkyeBrowse and our great partners at Autel.
Perfect. And again, before we go any further, if you have questions, there should be a questions place to put in questions. I have a tab for it on my end, so if you have questions, shoot those in throughout the webinar and we'll get to those at the end. Otherwise, I'll try to monitor the chat while Bobby is doing his presentation to get to some of those or get those organized.
Interrupt me in between or something like that. I can't see any of the questions.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I'll moderate all that. Perfect. All right, cool. So let's get started on the content. All right, Bobby, if you click it one more time. Okay, cool. So basically, Autel Robotics has been manufacturing drone technology since 2015. I had first seen them at CES in 2016, and since then, basically, we're at a point where the hardware has improved to the point where it's really just a vehicle for data collection. The payload that you use becomes more of what defines the difference between what is an industrial drone, a public safety drone, or a consumer drone, even though sometimes they're one and the same. So if you could go to the next click. So like a car without a driver, basically the drone by itself doesn't really do much. What really drives the differentiation is the operator. So in public safety, I would say that public safety users are our most important operators to make sure that our technology is performing consistently. We feel that in the right hands, our vehicles can be used to protect communities and keep police officers and firefighters out of harm's way, but also it could be used as a very valuable data collection tool. If you go to the last one. And so basically, I would say that ultimately you need a mission or a place to go with these things to come together to make it into something meaningful. And in the drone industry, this is largely the role of software. It creates a purpose for the drone, and we at Autel, we feel like we want to partner up with the people that are doing the best in the software space that can add value to our users. And that's how we came to this partnership with Bobby and the team at SkyeBrowse. They are creating, and Bobby will be showing you very clearly, but creating a way that you can process your data to give you insights in the field that can be the difference between, a life saved, or be the difference between a fire put out, or just in the data collection or evidence data collection process. If you go to the next one, Bobby. So ultimately, we want to play our role in serving communities in the United States and around the world. Drone technology is, without question, a tool that's driving significant benefits for public safety. There's more than 48,000 public safety agencies in the United States alone, even though a significant portion of those are going to be volunteer fire departments. But drone adoption is still well under around 10% of the total public safety entities. And this is not because there's not value. It's largely an issue in accessing budget and creating the story of why drone technology is important. There's countless departments that have successfully created drone programs, and these departments are eager to share their processes and the value that drones have brought into their lives and their workflows. And I really think, like I said, it's about telling the story and showing kind of those deliverables to chiefs and mayors and the people that hold the budget so they can understand what's possible with drones. So that's largely why we do webinars like this, is to inform and educate what drone technology can do beyond just taking simple images. Drone technology for a long time was considered, basically a military for military applications, and that moved to more of a toy or like very basic consumer applications. But these are serious tools that can provide a large value in a large variety of different missions within public safety. So I'm going to pass the stage over to Bobby so he can provide more detail on how they take the data gathering process and create these deliverables with SkyeBrowse.
Yep, great talk, Randall. So SkyeBrowse, the mission of SkyeBrowse is to democratize reality capture in one tap, and this is very useful for first responders. What I mean by that is we are enhancing situational awareness before, during, and after the incident. What do I mean by that? So before the incident, that'd be something like critical infrastructure pre-planning. We have tools to predict hazmat runoff, as well as mapped out a lot of schools around the United States for active shooter situations, as well as government buildings. During the scene, this could be, say, a tactical operation, a SWAT scout the night before. You can get a thermal map with an Autel drone of the scene, get ingress, egress points, position your K9 teams and all your other SWAT teams around for the command post to take a look at and visualize in 3D. And these are just some of the examples. And after the scene, that's the major use case, which is accident reconstruction. Instead of spending 5 hours taking physical measurements, now it's done in 5 minutes. And we've done over 2,000 accidents in the past year. And of course, there's like structure fires for fire investigations, natural disasters, and CSI as well. But I want to start off with just a video demonstrating the use case of SkyeBrowse. So SkyeBrowse really isn't a tool. It's not another tool that makes 3D models. SkyeBrowse is an outcome, and here are some of the outcomes. What you can see right here is the live structure fire mapped out in Tennessee, but in the thermal, you can see there's no smoke whatsoever. Of course, with thermal mapping, it's very, very rapid. It takes less than a minute to upload, 30 seconds to process. You can get real-time situational awareness of the scene right here. These labels were manually put on, but you can see this is with the white hot isotherm with the thermal camera right here. But in the future, our vision is to automatically label this information for you. So what you just saw right there is never before seen. It's a thermal 3D model. Here is the model right here, done on this structure fire in Tennessee. And right here, you can see what it looks like that I'm navigating with. You can see how easy it is for me to open a link. SkyeBrowse is designed to be as shareable as possible, so you can easily share this with other stakeholders, your command staff, whoever it might be right here. And you can see with that white hot isotherm, you can predict where even the fire will go with this. So imagine this being a wildfire or a warehouse fire. You have firefighters on, say, the roof of a warehouse. You have all the hot spots right here, but what they don't see is residual heat of the roof right here. Because of the burning rafters, you can see right here that this is unsafe to stand on. So with this technology, we'll be able to save a lot of lives. And that's just one use case for the thermal applications right there. Of course, there's quite a few other use cases. Okay. But before I get into that, let me just show you how easy it is to fly a SkyeBrowse mission. And I'll just narrate over this right here. You just open up the SkyeBrowse app, connect to your drone, ideally an Autel drone because this is an Autel webinar, and you just fly above the scene. We've changed our colors a little bit, so it's a dark purple instead of a blue now. And on the bottom right is a map view. If you tap it, you get 2 circles. Whatever's in those circles turn into a 3D model. And if you fly higher, right here, the circles get bigger. If you fly lower, they get smaller, up to about 1 acre. And then you can just tap start, and that's it. And the drone will calibrate its cameras. It will fly to its initial point in the first orbit right here at its current altitude. And it'll start recording video, gathering all this information for you. You just have to press 1 button. That's it. So that's the first orbit right there. And it's going to fly 2 orbits. So the first one is at a lower altitude to get finer details. The second one's at a higher altitude to get the surrounding environment. You can see right there in 90 seconds, it's done. So up to 1 acre, mapped out just with 1 tap with SkyeBrowse. For wide browse, you have long range mission planning right here. Whatever's highlighted turns into a 3D model. You just pinch to zoom in, zoom out. That's about it. And then we have an AI. If you look right here towards the top, it recommends an altitude, and this gives you the best 3D models. So at that recommended altitude, just fly over there, tap start. This wide browse button on the left is turned into a start button for even easier use. And you can see with wide browse, it's flying really, really quickly because we're recording video and not pictures. We can map out 50 acres, up to 50 acres in 5 minutes with wide browse. So really good for large scale maps of, say, a tornado or a structure fire, warehouse fire, search and rescue as well. And there you go. Land your drone, plug your SD card into your computer, upload it, upload the video into skyebrowse.com, and you get a 3D model in about 5 to 10 minutes. So really, really quick, really easy to use. But what does that mean? It means that we've mapped out a good amount of natural disasters in the past year. I'd like to publicly apologize. I said we mapped out most natural disasters in the past year. That's not the case, but we've mapped out a good amount. And here is one of them right here. So this is another map in Tennessee right here. You can see where the pilot took off. You can see the drone's flight path. And what's really interesting is this is just 4 minutes, 53 seconds. So really, really quick to get this 3D model right here and view it. So the drone flew at 33 miles an hour for this one, and you can really see, I took some measurements ahead of time. It loads and saves you work. This is 25 acres right there, mapped in 5 minutes. And you can really see the damage is done right here on the roofs. This entire shed is crushed. This right here, roof is ripped off. And of course, this just gives you the ability to triage emergency response. Now you know exactly which areas need the most relief. right here, just with one button press in 5 minutes. And of course, uploading this video did take a while, and processing took about half an hour or so. But right now, it's no longer just another tool that makes 3D models. This is an outcome that gives you actionable data right here. So this is another use case of SkyeBrowse right here for natural disasters. And of course, the ultimate goal is to integrate with Autel and keep on building a lot of different use cases. So we no longer become a 3D modeling company. We're not a drone company. We build outcomes. And I'll dig a little deeper into Midnight Sun and give a hint on that afterwards. But before I move on to the next model, are there any questions in the chat, Randall? Anything?
Yeah, Bobby, for the thermal 3D model that you created, did you do anything with radiometry on that, or is that purely just a 3D model for imagery, but there's no way to measure the temperature within it?
There's no way to measure the temperature in it. This was not flown by anyone on the SkyeBrowse team. This was flown with the Evo 2 Dual 640T. So there was no radiometric data in it. However, this is the quick and dirty way of getting a 3D model in thermal.
Yeah.
And you're able to get that digital twin and look at which areas are the hottest.
And I'll say from my experience over the last, I guess, 5.5, 6 years of doing things in aerial thermal imaging, getting a 3D model with radiometric data is really, really difficult. There's a couple software developers that have made efforts in doing so, and have not really completed their work to get to a point where they could reliably put it out as a product. So I think what Bobby has here is something where public safety generally doesn't need to know the specific temperature of a burning building or where hotspots are. They just want to know where the hotspots are. So there's not really a need for that radiometric data. If you're trying to do these sort of 3D models for envelope inspection, for instance, of a building where there is going to be slight temperature variations that you're going to want to measure, or it could be in the future for like cell tower or power line inspection where you want to have or power pole inspection, where you're going to want to have that radiometric data. I think that we'll get to the point where we can find how we can mesh over the thermal imagery over the RGB model and keep the radiometric data. But there's an organization in Sweden that's been at this for years and still hasn't perfected it. And some of the larger photogrammetry software developers also have not been able, like I said, to productize it.
And Randall, you are the thermal wizard in this on the stage right now.
Yeah, what's up?
With video thermal, we don't need the drone to recalibrate its FFC at all, just because of the speed of the flight. Could you clarify more about how FFC works and
so
videos better?
When you do a flat field correction, basically what it does is it puts a shutter in front of the camera to let it reset. It's kind of like a regular RGB camera where too much light has gotten into the camera and it sort of blows out the image. The same is with thermal or radiation that's coming off of objects. If it absorbs too much into the camera, it will start getting a little bit muddied. So we do flat field corrections to make it so that you have a clearer, crisper image, and it's a best practice to do a flat field correction before you take imagery that is used for radiometric data processing. When you do need the actual temperature of something, you'll flat field correct before. So because you're doing these missions so quickly, maybe doing a flat field correction at the beginning, but turning off the automatic flat field correction would be a best practice in using SkyeBrowse. Is that what you were getting at, Bobby?
Absolutely. And that just by tapping the button, there is no FFC going on throughout the flight. So you get very, very accurate data with just 1-2 minute video, and that's it. Instead of, say, spending up to, say, 30-40 minutes taking a bunch of pictures and stitching it together with photogrammetry, this really allows us to shine in terms of thermal right here. Moving on to the next scenario right here, we can see this is also used for tactical operations right here. This is, I'll pull this up right here. This is when I was in Southern California in Carlson. I was grabbing a cup of coffee right here and flew this. There's a tweaker issue in California where the tweakers are getting rich and they're getting smart. What do I mean by this? They're taking unemployment checks from their tweaker buddies. And in this case, it's in the Extended Stay America hotel right here. And they list about 100 of their tweaker buddies and then go down to the main lobby and pick up 100 checks every single day. So in California, there is no fraud detection from banks, and the feds can't prosecute for whatever reason. So since I was around the area, I was like, okay, I can make a model for you. So I was sitting right here, grabbing a cup of Starbucks right here. And oh, here's the Starbucks right here. So I parked a little over here in a 2-minute drone flight. Made a 3D model of this. So sent this over to HSI and Torrance Police Department. And you can see right here, HSI went in and used it for tactical situations right here. So here's a tactical scenario right here. Please excuse this distortion over here. This was due to the sun getting really cloudy and then really sunny right here. So it really messed up with our stitching a little bit. But if you look at it from this perspective, if the suspect was right here, now you have a 3D model of the labels. So you are the SWAT commander in your command post, maybe across the street or something. But instead of drawing this, which is what normally happens on a napkin, now you have this 3D model right here. You can position your K9 teams maybe behind this tree right here, perhaps around the corner in case the dogs are barking. They're outside of the Tahoes. You got your teams all the way right here. You got your snipers, different teams, as well as a suspect description on the top right here. So you're able to even calibrate long guns from here. So I suppose they want to get out through this egress point right here. If you position Osprey 2 right there with our profile panel, now you can get the slope and elevation profile of where Osprey 2 is, as well as the egress point right here. So you get height and distance, so about 131 feet away. So you can calibrate all of this ahead of time. And all of this is done with just a 2-minute drone flight, just giving you really, really good situational awareness right before serving a warrant, especially if it's dark out, because most warrants are served in the morning. Well, you can also use thermal to make a thermal map of the entire area, even at nighttime. So really, really beneficial for tactical operations. That's just one of the use cases of thermal as well as visual for 3D modeling. You see right here, this is critical infrastructure pre-planning. This was shot by Scott Malaker from Lake County Fire. And with the 4-minute, 48-second drone flight, you can see right here, the flight itself, the video, you're able to get a crystal clear 3D model of the entire stadium. And this is the Cleveland Browns Stadium. What's really cool is you don't have to download any other softwares to get this right here. You can zoom in and it loads over time. This is just on your browser, on your desktop computer or laptop computer. Works with just about everything. It's a little bit slow on Toughbook, so we don't recommend you use a Toughbook for this, but now you've got this entire stadium right here. Slope map tool right here. You have all the entrances and exits. In case someone comes in with a bomb, you now have elevation profiles of the entire area for both Overwatch as well as real-time situational awareness right here. And let me just show you real quick how easy it is to share a model with SkyeBrowse. Suppose I go into a model made, say, a beach house right here. If I wanted to just share it, all you have to do is just click share. And then by default, it's off. You can just share by link. So you just click here. You no longer have to download the point cloud, put it into, say, ArcGIS or any CAD systems. You can just share it just like that. And I just shared it into my browser right here. And anyone with this link can access basically the same exact thing as the model itself over here. So really, really easy to share. And of course, we are CGIS compliant. Servers are based in Virginia with AWS and FedRAMP Impact Level 2 compliant as well. So cleared for military and public safety use cases right here. And of course, if you want to maintain chain of custody, because it's uncommon that someone would guess this long string of letters, but it's within the realms of possibility. If you want to maintain chain of custody, which we maintain for you, you can also click share to SkyeBrowse, just put in their email, and they'll be emailed a link so we can actually track where the data is going right there. Of course, you have historical weather data. None of this stuff ever gets deleted from our servers. It's impossible to delete things from our servers, so you're able to keep this forever right here. Of course, another cool tool is you'll never have to take a picture ever again with SkyeBrowse. You can just seek to the area of the 3D model or of the video right here that you want to go into, click on Save Frame. It'll download a high-resolution JPEG right here directly into your downloads folder right here. And this is even higher resolution than the 3D model itself right here. And you can just get crystal clear pictures, well, just from clicking a button on SkyeBrowse right here. So that's a tactical scenario. That's the critical infrastructure pre-planning. And wow, that's a quick presentation. Just happy to chat about the vision of SkyeBrowse, where we're going. Give you some hints as well on what we're building next. Then go from there. What's any questions, Randall, so far?
Well, go for it. Where's the hints?
Oh, wow, put on the spot already.
I am.
Okay. So the hints is Midnight Sun. That's our search and rescue platform that we're building right now. It uses exclusively Autel thermal drones, so either the Evo 2 Dual, 640T, 640R, Dragonfish, perhaps, as well. And what it does is essentially a modified wide browse pattern where it goes back and forth, covers huge amounts of area. We think that it can cover 8 times as much with wide browse as at 400 feet AGL as our current wide browse flight pattern right now. And what that does is it rejects all the foliage and the trees from the area and only looks for the suspect or the missing person, in this case, the victim. So it rejects the trees, uses the thermal to find hotspots, pinpoints a GPS coordinate on your SkyeBrowse app, and then just like Find My iPhone, it'll tell you which direction to go, 60 feet that way. You just follow your iPhone, and it'll significantly help with search and rescue. Really get you all the hotspots that you need. We won't be able to tell you exactly if it's a person or not, or just maybe a really hot rock. Never thought I'd say that. But this does alleviate a lot of the pain points in public safety right now, which is squinting. So the command post, they get a live stream of the video. And what do I mean by squinting? They pause the video and squint at the screen until they say, hey, is that a person? Let's double check right there. So that's been going on for way too long in the drone industry, and nobody's really addressing this issue. So we really want to help out with that. And again, this just goes back to, SkyeBrowse isn't a tool. We're here to provide outcomes. And we've been proven to be mission capable, and it's been field tested multiple times.
Cool. So there's a handful of questions. I'm just going to go through them as they've been asked. One of them asked a question about using the white hot palette versus other palettes for some of the models. And I explained via chat, but I thought that it would be better if I vocalized it as well, that when you're looking at something like a fire where there's a significant delta T, significant difference in the temperature of the thing that you're looking at versus the surrounding area, using a colorized palette like Iron Bow is generally a best practice because you do have the variation between the yellow or orangish color versus the bluish and purple of the cooler surroundings. So that's going to make it easier and avoid more squinting when you have that greater coloration differentiation between the thermal image. When you're looking at things like search and rescue missions, where the temperature of a person is going to be 98.6 and the surrounding area could be 80, 90, and there's a smaller delta T, you're going to want to go between black hot and white hot and switch back and forth. So depending on what your mission is, if it's something that is going to be stationary and there's low delta T, like a accident reconstruction where a car is sitting on a road and they're generally the same temperature or close to, you'll want to use white hot or black hot. Otherwise, with fire, you'll want to use colorized ones like Iron Bow. There was a question about whether you can plan the mission before the flight with SkyeBrowse. Do you have to have the drone on and the app on and then create those circles, or can you do that pre going to the location, Bobby?
Yeah, you actually can. I don't have my drone connected, but I will go over the workflow by sharing my screen.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I'm just going back into the tutorial video right here. So, and a lot of more advanced users or people that have used SkyeBrowse for a longer time know about this. Whoop, where's the video? Lost the video. So in the wide browse screen, right? No, roll back here. Come on. Okay. You have a button right here called Previous Flights. So this saves every single mission that you've planned with wide browse, which means that you can just connect to your drone ahead of time. Say you're in the office and you want to do a flight that's 30 miles away. So you can connect it to your drone, search the area in the wide browse screen selector, clicking on wide browse and then exiting out. And once you're on scene, you can click on previous flights. In this case, this video doesn't share it, but you'll be able to just tap on top of the list of previous flights and it will load that flight directly onto your iPhone or iPad, just like that.
Perfect. Awesome. There's a question about the minimum specs that you would want to have to use the app, to use the SkyeBrowse app. And I think that most of this is all the processing done on mobile devices, or can you do it on a PC or a Mac computer as well?
All of the processing is done in our cloud. So you just upload the video into our cloud. And the video sizes, it depends on how large of an area you want to map out. If you're mapping out 50 acres, then the video size will get to maybe 3 or 4 gigabytes. But for most flights, for thermal flights, it's like under 100 megabytes. So it's like instantaneous upload, even with slow internet speeds. With visual flights, somewhere between 300 to 800 megabytes. So still within reasonable time, you'll be able to upload it, say 5-10 minutes or so. And yeah, you'll be able to process it and you'll get an email after it's done.
Perfect. And you mentioned like large data sets. Someone asked if you could link numerous maps together if you had GCPs or something like that. So basically, if you had one mission and you knew the corners were marked by a GCP, could you stitch a whole area together? They were asking specifically about tornadoes or wildfires that have spanned a significant distance. If you can continue to like make these larger maps with SkyeBrowse.
So I've coded up the backend for it. My background is in tech. I did code up a good amount of this platform. Not so much right now. I just do it on the weekends or in my spare time, just to add in a few cool features. The backend is ready. In terms of the front end, the iOS part, we can just code it up within a day or two, but the issue is it might be too difficult to use and to train. So we're still brainstorming on the easiest way of being able to merge multiple missions together into one big 3D model.
So speaking of 3D models and how these can be exported, what file types can you take these models and bring them out to other softwares?
So currently the file type is LAZ file. It's universally accepted, open source, works with just about all CAD and 3D modeling systems out there. You can just drag and drop it into, say, QGIS, QT Reader, FireZone 360, Map 360, all that. However, we want to push away from that just because we're trying to disrupt the laser scanner industry as well. I mean, if you've seen, say, factual diagrams in California, you'll realize how many dots are really on that factual diagram. You can see just from quick glimpse, wow, that officer stood out there for 6 hours lugging around a toll station, just moving from one point, waiting a few minutes to another point, and in the blazing hot heat. And of course, there's like physics engines and whatnot that need to be addressed, but the goal is just try to keep it all into one integrated ecosystem where we're not a tool that can just allow you to upload videos from other apps or just maybe from your iPhone or something like that, or input pictures. Everything has to be done with the SkyeBrowse app, currently on iOS and soon on Android, with the help of Autel Robotics. But everything's in an integrated ecosystem. So from start to finish, SkyeBrowse should be what you're using. And that's how you get a seamless user experience. So it's not trying to plan a mission on UGCS or drone deploy and then processing it in, say, Agisoft or reality capture. This is all done with the SkyeBrowse app, SkyeBrowse processing, SkyeBrowse analytics. And there'll be so many more features coming out soon. Can't wait to share.
Perfect. Someone asked if what the situation is with using Autel drones, or if you could use other drone brands, and I will be straight up. You can answer that question honestly, and I don't take any offense because we're building out an entire drone ecosystem, and it doesn't mean that anyone should be pigeonholed in choosing one manufacturer or one software provider. We feel like spreading the love makes sense. So, what airframes can you use on SkyeBrowse?
You can use SkyeBrowse on DJI drones as well. We started off with DJI about a year and a half ago. Works with just about all DJI drones except for the really tiny ones. So the Mini, Mini 2, Spark, Air 2, those guys, FPV as well. And also the newer DJI drones, so the M2EA and the M300. So we work with ideally the Mavic 2 Enterprise series that works best, but we have departments use Phantom 4s and whatnot. In terms of Autel, work with all Autel drones except for the Dragonfish as of right now. However, maybe I'm a little biased. My hat. I do seem to like the Autel guys a good amount. They're great people to work with. They're very receptive and listening to critique. And it was nuts. We were coding up SkyeBrowse beta for Autel. What was this? Maybe February, March. And then one of the issues with the SDK was that the drone would orbit forever. It wouldn't do a SkyeBrowse flight. So I just shoot Max a text, one of the guys at Autel. I'm like, hey, your SDK is broken. We're not going to be able to create our app. That's the nice way. That's the nice way of telling the story. And then within 2 days, we get an update on the SDK. It's got SkyeBrowse orbits on it. Just within 2 days, Autel's be able to listen and fix something that one of their customers or partners was asking for.
Yeah, and I think that that's like a kind of a message that I want to emphasize, is that listening component is really what I've built my career on and what we want to be known for. Working with drone manufacturers that are out there right now, there's either small ones that have limited resources, or there's huge ones that don't necessarily give you the amount of appreciation or the amount of respect or value the inputs as much as we will. I feel like we're in this sweet spot of large enough that we can make changes, that we have enough resources to dedicate to these sorts of things, but also staying grounded to what the drone industry needs. And so listening is a big component of what differentiates us from other drone manufacturers. So I appreciate you kind of setting that up, Bobby.
Yeah, I mean, also Randall's really handsome. Drop it in there.
Oh my goodness, Bobby, you shouldn't have. Question of whether you can use both RGB and thermal in a singular flight. Are you capturing both in any of these cases, or do you have to fly 2 missions to get both of those?
It actually captures 3. It captures the picture-in-picture, the RGB, and the thermal in one mission. Currently, you can only upload 1 of the 3, so we recommend either the visual or the thermal, but we'll add it into a feature where you'll be able to upload multiple files from the Autel Evil thermal drone, so you'll be able to upload both the visual and the thermal.
So someone just asked for clarifications on the drones that you could use. They asked if you could use Inspire 2 or M210, which I believe is yes, right? On both.
Yep.
They also said they had issues with the Inspire 1 V2, but it should work with Inspire 1, or is there an issue there?
We push people away from using Inspire 1. I had an Inspire 1 just in my dining room for about 3 months trying to troubleshoot why the gimbal is pointing backwards. We never figured it out. That drone is getting phased out, and it's a dinosaur. Not to insult your drone. It's a really cool drone, but does not work great with SkyeBrowse.
Perfect. So someone asked if there's examples that can be given so that they can view 3D models. Do you have like kind of a sandbox on your site or somewhere where there's 3D models that you can kind of move around in space and kind of test out, or what's the best way to do that, to see what the deliverable looks like?
Absolutely. So there's a few 3D models on our website. You can just click on the View Model button and you'll be able to see it. But also we'll be able to share a use cases sheet. Just shoot me an email at bobby@skyebrowse.com or reach out to us from our contact page, and I'll be able to respond with a PDF or a link to our use cases sheet. And I'll show you all sorts of different use cases, including some of the ones I shared, as well as a few other accidents. Yeah, be happy to share that.
Perfect. Someone asked if this is recorded. Yes, it's recorded. We will have a replay that, or we'll host it somewhere so you can check it out after the fact. And then someone also asked if we'll be sharing the slides. I think what's difficult there is that there's videos that are embedded into the slides. So if we exported it as a PDF, it doesn't really work so well. And if we send you a PowerPoint, there's certain things I've never really understood, but in every corporate environment I've been, sending your corporate PowerPoints is like a thing that people don't do, because then someone has your template in which they can then create slides on your template, and it's, I mean, frowned upon. I don't know when that would happen, but anyways, I'm sure that we can get
I've
you.
gotten your slides. I've already copied everything.
Well, I know you have. That's the issue. But if you need access to these slides, or if you want some of these assets to be available to you, just let us know. You could reach out to me, Randall at autelrobotics.com, or Bobby at SkyeBrowse.com. Bobby, I have a question personally, and this is just putting something to bed. A really significant question that I've had since we were introduced back in 2018, 19?
19. We were in
19?
Brisbane, I believe. You were
We were
sleep
in a
deprived, and we were both giving talks at World of Drones Congress. You were sleep
yeah,
deprived. I slept 2 hours the night before. I was like, "Hey, Randall." Who was
yeah.
that? It was Nick Osgood that introduced us
It
back
was Nick Osgood from Drone
then.
Base that introduced us, and I got E. coli uh, on my honeymoon a few months before in Colombia, and so I took my wife with me to Australia for this conference, and we were kind of like on a second honeymoon, and all we did was slept because I was having a hard time. Anyways, when we met, I was like, SkyeBrowse. Did the naming of SkyeBrowse have anything to do with eyebrows? Because you add the E at the end of sky to make it look more like eye. And I was just wondering if you ever considered that your name kind of sounds like eyebrows.
I was mocking up a bunch of logos, and I did have a few logos with eyeballs, with eyebrows. And
Okay.
but no, the E in SkyeBrowse was because this was like 4 years ago. I was just writing code for SkyeBrowse. It was just an idea at the time. No app, no drone support, not even like functional 3D modeling back then. I was like, SkyeBrowse, that sounds like a cool name. I'm not gonna, and this was without the E, of course. So I looked at the domain, I checked out the domain, tried to buy it, and it said that like this guy, Alan, in California was going to, he owned it for the past 10 years, but he wasn't going to renew it in 2 days. This was 2 days before Thanksgiving. So I stupidly wrote, "Hi, I'm looking to start a company. Could I purchase this website from you? What would be a good price?" Next day, listed on sale, $50,000. Bam! And I'm pretty stubborn. I'm never going to purchase that domain
Yeah.
because it's he didn't even give me a chance to respond. He just jacked up the price just like that. Oh, up and coming startup. They got money. They got venture capital money. No, we don't. And just jack up the price and see what they bite. So haven't bought that domain just yet.
Gotcha. Well, it put a question to bed for me, so I appreciate that. We have a few more minutes and a few more questions. Somebody asked to kind of describe when you talked about the tweaker use case at the hotel. They were saying like, what was the use case? Like, what were you actually doing? And it wasn't a people tracking thing. It was more like, we know we are going to have an event at this building, and so to pre-plan that event to make sure that you have a 3D a model that you can then assign positioning and things like that. That's the purpose, right?
Pre-planning as well as during the warrant. So you're serving a warrant, you have teams all around the area, but in order to visualize them, you just scribble it out on a napkin and then draw where the team is. But now you can visualize it in 3D and get exactly, the critical situational awareness that gives you the intel to keep your officer safe and secure.
So there's another question that kind of links to this. Let's imagine that you did scribble it on a napkin and you had a copy machine nearby. You could make a bunch of copies of that napkin, or you could draw it on a napkin 10 times and pass it out. How easy is sharing the 3D model to other people, other devices, so that they can then pull it up and look at it and see what that pre-planning looked like? Is that possible? Is that something for future development?
So sharing is as easy as clicking a button and copying that link. It's actually automatically copied for you. However, for tactical operations, officers do not have their phones on them. Would be bad if you're switching a warrant and you just get a phone call or like an alarm goes off. So that's not useful at the moment. There are some implications with ATAC, and I'll leave it at that because it's,
Okay.
deep tech stuff that
Yeah,
is in the works.
sounds good. Another question was, do you use this at all? Do you use your platform at all for mapping missions that aren't public safety related? Like, what if someone wants to kind of crossbreed between regular mapping missions and doing these sort of tactical missions? Is there a reason that they couldn't do that?
No, no. As long as you download the app and start using it, you can make 3D models of just about anything. In fact, when we launched our app in January of 2020, I think it was January, February, a mechanical engineer purchased a SkyeBrowse license to map out roofs. So he doesn't have to climb up the roofs to take all the measurements, and he still uses it to this day. Mike McDermott, great guy.
Perfect. Someone asked about the smart controller that we have and whether SkyeBrowse is available on it, and I don't know the most recent update on that, and I don't know if you know the most recent update on that. Before I'll ask you first if you know the answer, and then I'll give kind of my basic answer if you don't.
Okay, sure. Yeah, SkyeBrowse doesn't work on Smart Controller at the moment, but once SkyeBrowse for Android is ready, you'll be able to just download the APK and perhaps already have it bundled in with Autel Robotics, maybe as a new SKU, an Autel Robotics mapping platform powered by SkyeBrowse. Yeah, that's yeah, that's a wordful. That's a lot.
Bobby takes every opportunity to pitch his company, and I appreciate it.
No,
Yeah.
no, just trying to support other companies that support us.
Yeah, for sure. So when you're talking about the Android compatibility, and this is kind of for kind of drone industry knowledge as a whole, when you're going through the workflow of how you develop this technology on your end, and you select one or the other, iOS or Android, what is truly the difficulty of porting one to another? Do you have to develop the whole thing over, or why does that seem like it's such a complicated thing for many software companies?
So iOS is written in C# or Swift. Android is written in Java or Kotlin. I used to I coded up an Android app for SkyeBrowse 4 years ago, and it's a completely different coding language, completely different framework. So you're essentially starting from scratch. However, we have a really good iOS team. That's actually one guy, but he's really smart, Shemek, and he's going to be leading mobile development for SkyeBrowse once we're done fundraising. So right now, we need to finish our fundraise, so we'll be able to hire some Android developers that we've lined up, and then bang out an app in 3-4 months. With Shemek's iron fist, we'll be able to get it done.
Perfect. So we're over our time, but I have two more questions that I want to ask that have come up just so we get them out of the way. Can you generate 2D maps with SkyeBrowse?
It's possible. I think it's in our servers, but we don't have a button for you to download it just because most departments, we track usage metrics. Don't click that. So we get rid of the things that don't matter and keep the things that do. So it's not, a billion tools cluttering up your dashboard. Yeah, look at all these customizations. You can make a 3D model in 25 different ways. There's one way to make a 3D model. There's one way to share it. We keep it really, really simple. Otherwise, you have the paradox of choice. You have too many things, and you're going to be confused.
Cool. Last question that we have is, can you do volumetrics as well with it? Because I did ask if you could do it for other applications. Can you do volume measurements with SkyeBrowse?
I will share my screen and show you some 3D models and show you exactly what you can do in our dashboard. So right here is a 3D model made. It's not even with an Autel drone. Let me find a 3D model made with an Autel drone. Here is a nighttime 3D model shot at midnight right here. And here are a few tools. Of course, you still get all the details right here at nighttime. It's a little grainy if you zoom in, but that's due to the smaller sensor size of the thermal. So you can take annotations. You can take measurements, real quick measurements. They're all accurate down to a centimeter. Area measurements just by left clicking a few times. You can hide your measurements or hiding certain things like this. So that's just a bunch of lines. You can switch it from imperial to metric like this. You have a heat map, but this is an elevation heat map showing you elevation. So the hotter it is, the The brighter it is, the higher it is. Really good for hazmat. So with our hazmat tool right here, you'll be able to get slope just like that with the elevation tool. And you'll be able to see whether or not this, say, in this case, the grass is trending upwards or sloping downwards like that. You have a clipping tool. This is our isolator tool. Not so useful for non-accident investigation purposes, but right here, it's just whatever's highlighted can get removed from the 3D model. And this, in order for us to maintain chain of custody and CJIS compliance, we don't change the 3D model. We just change how the viewer perceives it. So now you get a cross section right here. You can update in real time. You can rotate it like that, get that cross section, or if you don't want it in the model, you can also get rid of it. Like that. And just the isolator tool is really good for crush analysis, for accident reconstruction. For volume, we had a volume tool for maybe 2-3 weeks, and nobody was using it. You don't need to figure out the volume of a car crash or the volume of an NFL stadium or anything like that. So we only keep the tools that matter for public safety.
Perfect. And the last question, I guess, is if someone wants to be as good as you at clicking around your own app, right? Because you're pulling all this stuff up super fast and you're navigating it really quickly, and it does seem simple, but do you guys do any training? What does that look like for a user if they do end up buying or trialing the SkyeBrowse app?
Check out our website, www.skyebrowse.com. There is a tutorial on the top right tab, I believe, and that opens up a tutorial playlist narrated by myself. Each video is about 5 to 10 minutes long, and I go over a lot of the features more in depth about that. And hit subscribe on our YouTube channel. Like and subscribe it. All the videos are homegrown.
Oh yeah, Bobby. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to educate, all the people that decided to join in, and all the people that will be watching after the fact. If anyone has questions, feel free to reach out to myself and Bobby. Our email addresses were put in the chat as well as we showed them earlier, but mine is Randall at autelrobotics.com. Bobby's is Bobby@SkyeBrowse.com. That's SkyeBrowse with an E, not to be confused with eyebrows. And yeah, if you guys need anything at all, reach out to us. We're here to help. We're here to try to make magic happen within the drone industry. If you have ideas, or if you're using this technology, and if you have things you want to share, make sure that you reach out to us, because we want to highlight all the good stuff that you guys are doing. But with that said, I'm going to close this thing down, and we'll talk to you guys soon. Bobby, again, appreciate you, dog.
Thanks, Randall. Really appreciate the opportunity. Take care, everyone. Thanks to all the supporters.